that presidents of 16 universities from Conference USA and the Mountain West Conference have been meeting on a fairly regular basis now, and we met yesterday again in Dallas to discuss future conference membership, and we agreed yesterday at the meeting formally that we would work as efficiently as possible toward forming a new intercollegiate athletic conference that would comprise members of both Conference USA and the Mountain West. There are currently, as I said, 16 teams, 16 universities in the two conferences, 8 in each. And we believe that this new conference, as it would be formed, would offer tremendous benefits to the University of Texas at El Paso and our intercollegiate athletic program, because it would provide us with some wonderful opportunities to resume some traditional rivalries that we have had with the University of New Mexico and other institutions in the Rocky Mountain region, as well as some of our old WAC friends from Nevada, Reno, Nevada, Las Vegas, and of course Fresno State. So we're very, very pleased that these talks have been productive, and that within a very brief period of time we expect to have a formal agreement that would have to be approved by the Board of Regents of each one of the universities in the conference, in the proposed new conference. We expect that to take place over the next couple of weeks, and we hope very much that we will have a formal announcement about a new conference very soon. We're here today primarily to answer questions that you might have, and Bob Stull is here, of course, our athletic director. Many of our head coaches are here, and I know that we'd all be happy to respond to any questions that you might have. You all have copies of the news release, so you have the basic information in front of you. So I'll just open it up to questions.
There are two extras listed here. Membership 18 to 24 universities. Who are the other universities right now who are in play to perhaps be a part of this conference?
Well, there aren't any formal conversations underway yet, but we're obviously offering the opportunity for growing the new conference from 16 teams to as many as 24. So the range of growth might be 2 more schools, which would be 9 on each side. And by the way we're looking at this is that there would be 2 divisions, an East and a West. You've heard that before. There's been a lot of media commentary already about that. So we would add 2 institutions, 1 on each side, East and West. And I don't have any more information than you do about the names of the institutions, so I've heard the same things that you've heard. We haven't entered into any formal discussions. So on the west side, we've heard about Utah State. We've heard about, on the east side, schools like FIU, for example, in Florida, because Central Florida is obviously not in Conference USA at this point. So I think they're the usual suspects that are out there. As many as 8 more is possible, but I don't think that would happen immediately. This new conference would not begin actual competition until the 2013-2014 year, so we still have some time to work on those details. First, we have to form an entity, and that's what we're working on now.
As a very quick follow, which side would UTEP prefer to be on, if any? Because it seems like you guys are pretty much right in the middle of this whole thing.
Well, you know, I said to some folks earlier that normally we end up at the margin of whatever time zone or area for commercial. For example, we sometimes end up in the Phoenix area for a sales team, or in the Dallas area. It just depends on whatever the company might want to do. So we've always been kind of at the margin. In this particular case, we enjoy a very central position from east to west. And of course, what's interesting about this conference is that it stretches across the entire United States all the way to Hawaii in football. I think we if you look at the geography of higher education in the United States, what you see is that there are many, many more universities in the eastern part of the United States than there are in the West, because it's just much more intensely populated concentration. The population is much greater. And so there aren't as many choices for additional universities in the West as there are in the East. And so my guess is that with any additions, we would probably end up in the West, but that's not been decided either, because we don't really know who is going to be a part of this conference beyond the 16 universities that are now working together to create it.
Would you advocate for the West?
I think I'd be comfortable either way, to be honest, but I think that it is exciting to compete against schools that we know, like the University of New Mexico and like Air Force Academy and Colorado State. These are schools that we have competed with in the past, and I think that would be a nice opportunity for us. Certainly the two divisions would help us a lot with travel, not only the cost of travel, but the class days that many of our student athletes have to miss in order to travel to places on the East Coast like Marshall or East Carolina. So I think the East and West divisions are really going to benefit us a lot. Well, I think there's a different climate, an external climate. I think there's obviously a much greater domination of television revenues today than there were then. And I think that the division structure in this instance is probably more feasible than the one that the WAC was talking about. I think one of the important principles that is going to guide us in developing this new conference is an effort to achieve stability, not only financial stability, but conference stability. I think one of the most destructive things that's happening in intercollegiate athletics today is the instability of conferences. The constant striving to move up and to change conferences has created tremendous problems for everybody. And I think that stability is going to be a big factor. Well, there's a lot of discussion about 2 divisions or 4 pods or lots of possibilities. I think we really have to get the conference conceptualized, how it's going to be, what we're going to do in terms of the original 16, and then begin to work together. Should we get to something like 24 teams in the conference, pods would probably be a good possibility.
When you talk about expansion, you never hear from Mexico State. Would that be something you definitely forward to?
Well, we're always happy to advocate for neighbors. The biggest issue, frankly, with respect to that, and I think it's been misunderstood, is in many instances what we are looking for if we're going to achieve stability is solid television market additions. And frankly, New Mexico State, because UTEP is in this market already, and this is not one of your top 10 television markets in the country, it's difficult to imagine that would be a first choice. Now, I'm not saying that it's not going to happen, because that hasn't been, we haven't really discussed it. There's a long list of schools, but New Mexico State really hasn't been on that list, and so we'll just have to wait and see. I think the expansion teams that might be invited to join or might want to join and solicit membership, I think are a second step. We've got to get the first step done, and that's what we're working on now.
what are estimated, have you guys looked at the television revenues? I'm sure that, TV revenue is such a big part of why conferences get together anymore nowadays. How much have you looked at it, and what are the possibilities? Do you see an increase? Is it going to stay the same? Everybody going to rip up their contracts? What's going to happen?
Well, we don't know yet. I mean, that's really an important dimension of all of these conversations, and has been. And of course, there are some ongoing conversations, but a lot depends on the makeup of the conference, the television markets that would be involved. And as you know, we had the departure of Houston, which is a big market, and Dallas with SMU, and Central Florida, all of which are television markets. So we have to keep that very much in mind, and we will be doing that. That's one of the things we're talking about. What was not anticipated, at least by me, and I think by some others, was the sort of latest departure, which was Memphis. And so some of the conversations about television are going to have to be reviewed now in light of the fact that Memphis is not any longer one of the television markets that would be included in this conversation. So this is still quite fluid, and we're just going to have to wait and see.
You said a time frame for a couple of weeks. Do you anticipate having anything for the conference at that point to discuss?
Well, we've talked about a name, and if anybody has any great ideas, we'll be happy to entertain them. I don't think we're offering a prize, but I think the name is going to be really important. It is a conference that extends from all across the United States in all time zones, and of course in football and to Hawaii. And so I think we need to have a name that captures that somehow. And I'm not sure what that'll be, but there are some smart people thinking about that, and if you have ideas, I'm sure they'd be happy to hear what they are. Well, I think that would be good. That would be good. It would be nice to be able to put that on the formation agreement documents, but I don't know whether that'll be possible. We've formed some work groups, and there are a lot of us working on various dimensions of this, and it's complicated, as you might expect, so there's a lot of work to be done. A name is really important. Your brand is going to be very, very important, and it can't be Mountain West or Conference USA, I don't think, so those are used, right? Taken.
Who's your commissioner?
Pardon?
Who's going to be the commissioner?
That's not been resolved either. That's all still up in the air. There's so many pieces and parts to this, and we've got work groups sort of individually tackling each one of these things, personnel issues and television and legal issues and so on and so forth.
Because we get the range of reasons, TV, natural rivalries, what are the reasons, what are the top reasons for no?
For making this move, for the conference to do this? Well, I think television revenues are certainly important, and with the departure, both conferences have lost members, right? Mountain West and Conference USA, and this creates an entirely new environment for television, for each one of those conferences individually, and so we and our television partners have to think about that, and so that's very, very important. I mean, television is very important. I think also important is the stability issue. I think that, frankly, it's very wearing on everybody. I think coaches and certainly we and others to have to continue to adjust to new conference composition, and that instability, I think, has hurt intercollegiate athletics a lot. And I think what we would like to be able to do in the best of all worlds would be to achieve some greater stability going forward, and television is very much a part of that. Contractual arrangements could be a part of that. So we'll see where that takes us. We also think that the institutions in the Mountain West that we would be partnering with, again, are institutions that we've always had a great deal of respect for. They're major state universities. We We like those institutions. We like the people who lead them. And I think they offer us great opportunities for competitive experiences for our students. We are talking now about a football championship kind of arrangement. That would be a great advantage, I think, as well. That would affect television contracts, too. And so there's just a whole bunch of reasons why I think under the current circumstances, given the fact that we each now have 8 teams, we're in a very good position to leverage that into something much, much better.
So TV would be the top of the list right now.
Television is certainly a big part of intercollegiate athletics these days. Revenues from bowls and television are, of course, major factors. And, one of the things that's a big concern to, I think, everybody, including the NC2A, I hope, is the kind of disparity in revenues and budgets of programs. And that's something that's going to have to be thought through very, very carefully.
Travel costs a wash because we've already been traveling so far, and we made it cheaper.
It could be, absolutely, it could be. And as I said, I think class days missed is the kind of hidden cost of trying to get to places like Marshall and East Carolina. That's hard for us. And it's hard for them to come here. So having the divisions and, the kind of airline connections that I think are more cohesive in our region will be helpful.
You merged in what all was this time back everybody's mind was clearly expanded.
I think people, it's clear that as we began to look at the situation within Conference USA and within the Mountain West, I think there has been for quite some time thoughts about maybe there is another way to organize ourselves. And we haven't really figured out all the details yet of how this would be done. But I do think that trying to perhaps achieve some savings in time and money in terms of divisions and generating additional revenues through a more attractive television arrangement are all factors that we need to pay attention to. Bob, would you like to say anything?
I'll answer your questions. I think she pretty well, I think, summed up everything. I think that, again, the opportunities for inventory, we've got anywhere from 18 to 24 teams inventory for our television, and the stability of the league. You saw what happened even when the Big 12 lost 2 or 3 teams. All of a sudden they're scrambling to add people to their league. I think when you have 18 to 24 teams, if you lose a team, you can elect to keep the way it is, or you can add somebody, but there's not a real scramble with the numbers that you have. So, and you're asking about whether pods or divisions. When the WAC broke up, one of the big issues was trying to establish an East and West division at the time. I think this is a much more workable situation at this time, and I think everybody's in agreement of what they're trying to do. So, again, the biggest thing, like she said, was determining who's who, who's where's where. And it probably makes more sense for us to go to the West if they are out to the East, which there's a lot more universities there. We do have a long list of people, and actually New Mexico State is in that list, but there's a long list of people who've actually been quite aggressive about trying to join Conference USA as the way it was before, and certainly the way the league will move forward. We'll certainly have not a shortage of teams that want to participate. I think the question is in the number is what do they add? So if we're at 18, let's say there's 18 and maybe 2 football-only schools, for instance, there's only value by adding more people. If the television number stays the same with 18, you're not going to add 2 more unless it brings value. So I think they'll keep the number that probably reflects the best revenue opportunities.
The quadrant thing that seems to sink the WAC, the rotating quadrant. So you're saying East and West, we're looking at 2 divisions, and that's how it will be?
But we don't know. I mean, literally, the presidents have been working on this, and what they've been working on is just trying to get the agreement that we're moving forward with this merger. As soon as it's official, what will happen, there'll be a plethora of committees that will be working on different issues of exactly how the structure will work and the total program. But until that happens, we don't really know. I just don't see the quads right now unless we go to 2014 or something. But I'm just saying, I'm just guessing, because none of the conversation has taken place yet. Until we get where everybody agrees that we're moving forward and is written off by the Board of Regents, then all those things will be taken care of. But we literally have not been part of the conversation.
You know what a timeline is on figuring all that out?
No. I really don't. I think that they're talking, I think like Dr. Natalicio said, someplace hopefully by the beginning of March, that at least will be established, everybody's come to this agreement, and then it will take a good part of next, at least through the summer probably, to establish all the actual details of how things will work, I would suspect. Then you have the issue about scheduling. So you have to, for instance, if we go to the West, we have, next year, we have 2 of our non-conference games in New Mexico and Colorado State. Well, they in 13, they could be part of a conference. We don't know. And just like you're seeing right now, the scheduling nationally is just absolutely crazy. People are still trying to get teams for next year, and so that will happen again, probably starting next year.
What's the general feeling among UTEP coaches?
I think they're excited. I think they see the value of what we're doing, the true value. I think that, like Diana said, you have the opportunity to continue with some of the rivalries, including people like Rice and Tulsa, and then you have all the old-timers who absolutely love the rock, so you bring in the New Mexicos and Colorado State Air Force, these of the world. I think it's exciting. I really do. And what we'll try to do, I'm sure, is try and keep some connections, in the Houston-Dallas area. So even if we're on the west side, we'll probably try and keep schedule either non-conference or I don't know how to divide up, try and get a game in Houston, for instance, or Dallas.
What about the semifinals for a football championship? How attractive is that? Something that kind of is attractive to television networks, you think?
I don't know. Again, that's all speculative.
I mean, you figure like if it was a 2014 conference, you'd have like a 2014 basketball tournament at the end of the almost 2 conferences with kind of schedule.
I have no clue. I really don't. And again, none of the details worked out. I mean, those are huge questions about exactly how that would work and where it would work. I mean, right now, in our conference, we bid for the conference tournament. In Mountain West, they play in Las Vegas. So, would we stay in Las Vegas? Would we bid on it? We don't know. None of those details are there. Like I said, this is, the concept is there, the details are not. Any other questions? Thanks.